All right, let's discuss the Joe Brady promotion with TSN's Bills reporter Dave Naylor. Lots of different candidates. In the end, it's Joe Brady who gets the nod, Dave. And when the news broke, I was, of course, doom scrolling on Twitter as I do during the day, and I saw Dave's tweet about the news, and you seemed a little surprised by the decision. Dave, why was that?
Well, I think a few reasons. One is they interviewed 9 people. And if you feel like you have the strong internal candidate who's got an inside track on the job, you usually don't interview 8 other people. That would be one. I think also there was just such a tone at the news conference with Brandon Beane, the general manager, and Terry Pegula, the owner, last week, where change was in the air. They'd run into the playoff wall. They needed new voice, all those kinds of things. And that this really doesn't fit with that. I think it's a very much a departure from the tone they set at that news conference. So, of course, why do they do it? Well, I think it's the safe choice, and that doesn't mean it's the wrong choice, but it's certainly the safe one. The Bills have done a lot of good in the last several years, and Joe Brady has been there for 4 of them, 2.5 as the offensive coordinator. I mean, Josh Allen was the MVP under Joe Brady last year. They had the NFL rushing champion under Joe Brady in this past season. And the other part of this, I'm going to go back to when the Bills let it be known at that news conference that Josh Allen would have a significant voice in the process. Let's go back to the end of the 23 season when Joe Brady was the interim OC. Josh Allen was asked at the end of that season, did he think Joe Brady, did he want to see him get the job full time? And he didn't hesitate. He said yes. I said in that instant, well, Joe Brady's going to be the OC, and he was. So if Josh Allen is involved in this process now, you think he probably has some loyalty to the guy who helped him win an MVP award. If he expressed the opinion that he wanted Joe Brady, how do the Bills go against that? That's the other thing that I'm kind of left feeling in this case.
And yet, you fire Sean McDermott and then you give the promotions to Brandon Beane and Brady. To your earlier point, Dave, is it a little counterproductive to not get an outside voice to even come in here and try to fix some of these issues the Bills have?
Yeah, I think that's fair. The other thing this really does, I think, is put sort of a circle of blame a little more on Sean McDermott. I mean, you have a team that's been very successful, and the guy who's been in charge of the offense is now the head coach. And the guy who built the roster is now the president of football operations. And the defensive-minded head coach is gone. So it feels like it's more about kind of putting a circle around Sean McDermott and saying, hey, we believe in these 2 other guys. We just had to move this guy out of the way. But let's look at some of the challenges that the Bills have had under Joe Brady. In each of the last 3 years, when they've exited the playoffs, in the late stages of the games that they've lost, the Bills have had the offense and the ball has had the offense with enough time to go down and score. They haven't done it. 0 for 3, that's under Joe Brady. When you look at the Bills' receiver development, they have not had a 1,000-yard receiver since Stephon Diggs. And in fact, the development of the receivers, and there have been enough of them in the last couple of seasons come through Buffalo, it really hasn't been much to see, maybe aside from Khalil Shakir. And you've also got now, of the 32 teams in the NFL, the Bills led the NFL in rushing. And I think there's some question about, hey, if Josh Allen, his age 30 season is coming up, so he's right in the heart of his prime. If you're taking the ball out of Josh Allen's hands more than any other team, by running it more than any other team, is that really playing to an advantage? I think everybody recognizes the strength of a good run game, but I think it'll be curious to see whether it continues to trend that way. When Brady took over midway through the 23 season, the offense very clearly moved in the direction of the running game. And I think we've all believed that was Joe Brady's preference. It'll be interesting to see how it comes out. There are a number of issues with this offense, as efficient and high-scoring and productive as it's been, that I think the Bills would not want to see repeated in years ahead. And we'll see whether they get a departure with Joe Brady back in charge.
And then there was some CFL news as well on Tuesday, Dave. The reigning most outstanding player, Nathan Rourke, has signed a 2-year extension with the BC Lions. That'll keep him in Vancouver through the 2028 season. Rourke set a single-season Canadian record last year, throwing for 5,290 yards, 31 TD passes. The Lions are looking to make their first Grey Cup appearance since 2011. Dave, in your opinion, you cover this league extensively, how important was it for BC to lock up the Canadian face of the league long term?
The Canadian face is kind of a nice to do. I think really he's the best player in the league. And he's going into his age 28 season. And I think one of the things the Canadian Football League really needs is to see prominent players stay associated with teams for long periods of time, not have stars like Nathan Rourke with 3 or 4 teams on their passport, as sometimes it can feel. And look, we got a bit of an indication that Nathan Rourke was leading this direction at the end of last season. I mean, he's 27 years old. He has a great season. He's the league's outstanding player. And what did he say at the end of the year? I'm not going to go do the NFL workout circuit. Like, unless someone's handing him money and a number 2 job, I'm not going to go prance and run around for the NFL and try to get into a camp next summer. His commitment was to the CFL and the BC Lions, and I think that's what we've seen come to fruition here. I think this is good news all around. It's great for Nathan Rourke, it's great for the Lions, and it's great for the Canadian Football League, and it's great that the best player in the league for now and likely years to come is going to be a Canadian.
Getting close to the season starting June 4th, just around the corner. Dave Naylor, thanks for this, my friend.
Hey, my pleasure, Jay.
And don't forget, here are the odds to win this year's Grey Cup, presented by our friends at FanDuel. Nathan Rourke's Lions, second shortest odds to win it all, behind just the Alouettes, who lost the Grey Cup to the Riders last season. Should the Lions win the Grey Cup, it would be, as I mentioned earlier, their first since way back in 2011, which was also the last time they played in the big game.